Hi, teachers. Today, the lesson was about slowing everything down. And although the formality part of the lesson where we, really explain the intention and we talk about why we slow down isn't, we don't spend a whole lot of time on that. What we do spend most of the time on is actually moving them through the process of slowing down and doing something with intention rather than just rushing through something. Occasionally, the practice has the opposite result, where they will still rush, and then we have to remind them to bring it back and slow it down. So how I teach them slowing things down is with a little bit of a hook of offering something that I have brought to them. So I say that in very plain language. Today, I brought you all something. And they'll chatter a little bit about it. What is it? What can I do with it? You brought all of us something, the typical musings about that. And I'll ask them to stop and say, isn't that interesting that I can just say that I brought you something with no information beyond that? And your mind starts to make all these stories, and it gets excited, or it gets curious, or it gets suspicious. And there's so many different places that the mind can go when someone presents with a statement like, I brought you something, or I have a surprise for you. So what I brought them today is chocolate, plain, dark chocolate, nothing interesting or exotic. I will say that this is the first group of students I've done this with where they weren't disappointed when they found out it was dark chocolate. Usually there's an audible like, "Aw," when it's not Reese's peanut butter cups or Hershey Kisses or something like that. The first part of the lesson is simply giving and receiving. So having them sit in a circle is ideal, and if they're at their desks, they can still do this. And it doesn't have to necessarily be about passing things out like chocolate or a treat to eat. You can have them do the passing things out with papers in the classroom, sitting at their desks. And the idea is that you're going to receive with one hand, your left hand, and you're going to give with your right hand. And sometimes it does take a minute to teach them which hand is their left hand and which hand is their right hand, depending on the age of the students. So their receiving hand just stays open. It doesn't do anything. And the giving hand will take the chocolate out of their hand and place it into the left hand of the person next to them. And this will go on, the passing of the chocolate hand to hand, all the way around the circle until the person that's directly to my left is holding on to the piece of chocolate. And then everybody eventually gets to keep it. So that's step one of just the slowing down the passing it out process and getting them to really think intentionally about moving an object from one hand to the other. And it sounds very basic, and the only intention is to get them to slow down. And I'm sure that you have noticed that when they're passing papers back in class, or someone is tasked with collecting something, it is often very rushed, and there is this constant urgency that is underneath the energy of what they're doing. So it's like rush, 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 rush to get something done as fast as possible, rather than to take their time to do it well and to do it correctly. And sometimes it takes some backing it up. Okay, give me the chocolate back, because I'm not seeing the actual receiving and then the giving to the person next to you. So after you've done that, and everybody has a piece of chocolate, and they've already been instructed that they can't eat the chocolate yet, they can't open the chocolate, they just have to hold it until everyone has one, we're then going to take a minute and just smell. What does dark chocolate really smell like? Is it sweet? Is it bitter? You can throw those things out there for them. And then they're allowed to open and hold the chocolate in their hands. They can guess, like, how long would it take for you to hold this in between your fingers until it started to get melty? How warm is your hand? How cold is your hand? These are really great questions. They're then allowed to smell it without the wrapper. How much stronger is it now that there isn't a wrapper closing the chocolate off? The next step is they're allowed to put it in their mouths and not bite it. So they can put it on their tongue, close their mouth, suck on the chocolate, let the chocolate start to dissolve, but they can't bite the chocolate. Then you give them the cue that they can actually eat the chocolate and to pay attention to what it was like. The idea is to get them to spend at least 5 minutes eating one piece of chocolate. So it's a longer activity because it could take 5 to 10 minutes to pass the chocolate out and another 5 minutes to eat the chocolate, to smell it, to unwrap it, to smell it again, to put it in your mouth, hold it in your hand. Well, like just lengthening the amount of time that they're eating one piece of chocolate. And the next time that you visit the slowing down process and the slowing down lesson or mindful eating, you can give them a little bit more of a prompt, or you can ask them to reflect on and write about what it was like to slow down their eating. What do they eat really fast? What do they tend to eat slower? When something tastes good, do they rush through it or do they savor it? And give them those cues when we talk about mindful eating and slowing down. So I thought it would be fun to bump this lesson up because tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and giving them an opportunity to do something a little out of the ordinary, and next week is break. So that's why this lesson is a little bit earlier than normally I teach mindful eating or the slowing down process, but they did a really great job today. So thank you.